Welcome back again. As I call it, the second season. It's the start of a new year. Second season makes it sound like it's awesome, like someone kept me around, but I kind of control that. I definitely probably could have been canceled on some of this, but hey, anyway, the first episode of the new year with Stacey Randolph, and you know what? We've already had some chats. I think she's a little bit nervous about maybe some questions, but if you guys who have been on the show know that I don't know what I'm talking about half the time and I make things up. So you never know. It just might be one of those little mind things. But hey, I appreciate everyone at least enjoying hopefully a beverage with you as we go and we bring this to you. So hello, Stacey. I'm giving you a cheers right here. Cheers. Thank you very much. Yeah, you got to cheers for sure. And thank you. I appreciate it. I know. Uh, let's see. So I'm just gonna throw you. I'm not gonna throw you under the bus, but so I probably, said, hey, you know what? I'm gonna reach out to Stacey. When was that? Maybe May or so. I sent
It was early.
something. It was a long. It was like I'm like, you know what? I need to get some clout onto the show, and so boom, I sent this out to you, and I waited and I waited. But hey, you're here now, and that's all that matters, and I'm super excited. So although the first thing that we need to make sure that we do is, I want you to kind of, give from birth, starting doing digital forensics, all that stuff. Take people through to really, how you started. Some of the things that you wanted to do, and the middle part of it, and then finish off what you're doing now.
Sure. So I started out, was born, no,
Yes,
was
yes, you
born in the
have.
80s.
Yes, yes.
So I'm old-ish. I'm not quite as old as Lee, but
Thank you.
we'll get
Yes, you're
there.
you're correct, and I would agree.
Yes. So my dad actually had, I think it was a Commodore or something.
Commodore
Really old
64.
school. Yeah, really
Hmm.
old school computer. We played Avoid the Noid on the little disc. It was my favorite game ever. I used to purposely mess up the computer to try and figure out what it was doing. So that was kind of the start of the computer stuff. After that, I just kind of did the normal, went to school like everybody else, graduated, and then decided I didn't want to do anything with computers and did psychology or attempted to do psychology.
Yep. Yeah.
That didn't work out so well, but that's fine.
Because people are
Um,
weird. That's why.
yes, yes. I found out that there was a lot of peopling. So into that. After that, after I decided that wasn't working, did crime scene forensics. So the blood and gut side of forensics.
Yeah.
That was kind of fun. Like I really, really kind of still wish I had gone that route, but didn't. Knew I had to do more in school. So then Defiance College actually had a program that they were starting for computer forensics way back 2005-ish. Um, did that, was part of the first graduating class for computer forensics for that. Got a job right out of school and have been working corporate sector, a few different companies. Santiago was on here one of the past few times. He was actually my boss for a little while, so that was fun. Um, but yeah, now I'm just doing corporate stuff.
So let's go back to kind of the you know what, and it's crazy. I think that they should probably, I think we should do a study. And the study being, well, first I'm going to talk about Commodore 64, right? Because that was my favorite. And again, you said I'm old, which I'm going to tell you I am. And so the Commodore 64, I actually took my Commodore 64 to college. Yeah,
Nice.
exactly. And you know what? What does it do? Nothing, pretty much. Played Zork, those types of things. Some of those fun games. But anyway, so it has nothing to do with at all with the Commodore 64, but it has to do with the schooling, right? With psychology, because I will tell you of the people, and I think I said this to another guest. The 90% of the people that come onto the show didn't start out doing any type of forensics or cybersecurity or anything at all, right? They like computers. They like kind of doing that, but they wound up going into who's going to be a computer guy? You know what? I'm going to make all the money and be a psychologist, right? Because here's the same thing. I did it. The same exact thing, psychology, right? And so it just it's bizarre that people really didn't start on it. So tell me, what all of a sudden piqued your interest? Was it when you went with with the Defiance? Was it with you when you were doing the crime scene? Where is it that you all of a sudden say, shit, that's really cool? I mean, this computer stuff, it's something I want to do. Or you just say, yeah, I'm going to try it, and then you just fell in love with it, or you're just like, yeah, I'm going to try it to make a living.
Yeah, I mean, I always liked doing puzzles and like Sudoku and little memory like word games and things like that, and just trying to figure out like bits and pieces of building items, or like what's inside a TV or what's inside a computer or whatever, like what makes this run. So that kind of piqued my interest. And then when I realized that psychology was not going to happen, I started looking out there. I'm like, well, what do I actually like to do? Like, what are some of my interests? And a lot of it was, I have this weird fascination with serial killers, which I think is pretty common with a lot of.
It's so common. It is. It's bizarre.
Yeah. I mean, so I got down to that path. I'm like, well, maybe I could fit psychology into this. I could be an FBI profiler, whatever. And then it just didn't happen.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So in thinking, though, going back to really kind of, the computer again, building things, putting things together, is it a certain, I guess, for those people who might be getting into it or want to get into it, if you go to school and you're like, man, it's kind of a drag to do that, is that something you're like, I mean, you don't have to. There's other things that you can do. Find something that you love, or you're just like, yeah, I'm just going to go in and hang out with, try to do this just because this is what my schooling is. Because you can go and get your degree and completely work in a different field. I mean, a lot of people do that right now. So how hard is it for someone to transition to say you wind up getting your degree? It has no CS. I mean, you really don't get into that side of it. Or you don't have a background in law enforcement, or however. I mean, how can people go in and transition into, what? I want to learn about digital forensics.
I mean, I think it's pretty easy to transition to it as long as it's something that you really want to start learning. And I mean, there's always something new with technology. So you'll never get bored with it, which I think is a big draw for a lot of people. The work is never stagnant. So, I mean, we have a lot of music majors who actually work at our firm. Mm-hmm. So that part of it is, I mean, music doesn't necessarily relate to doing forensics,
right?
But there's a vast number of people who have been music majors.
Right.
So I think it's, as long as you have that interest and just wanting to learn about something, you can get into this field.
Yeah, I think you made a good point, is that, and I'm not diagnosing you, but, you go into, you like the crime scene stuff because, it's a puzzle. You like puzzles. You like to put things together. But to go and look at, it's not necessarily the puzzle side of it, but every day that you went, it's a different crime scene, right? Something's different. Something is kind of laid out differently. And I think that's a draw for people. Again, I have a law enforcement background, so, going to work and it's different. You never know what's going to happen, right? There's some of the things that you just don't know, and it's new. So it keeps you fascinated. Whereas a day-to-day where you sit around and go, well, I'm going to do another spreadsheet, those types of things. So that to me is my draw, and it sounds like, that's these different puzzles or having something different happen every day keeps you motivated.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think part of that also draws from the whole ADHD trying to jump from one task to the other. And so I always have to have something that keeps me motivated and keeps me wanting to do another task so I'm not just stuck in the same thing every day.
Yeah, so a little bit on that too is, with digital forensics, and there's so many different maybe different, I don't want to put you in this hole or put you in this hole. But I mean, there's a lot of different avenues. And when we start talking about digital forensics, it's not necessarily like, hey, yeah, I'm going to stare at computers all day. So give people just a little feel of, I mean, the different types of opportunities that might be out there, for people in digital forensics. What are some of the things that they might be able to look forward to that might be different than what they think or they see on TV?
Sure. So I will say a lot of it that you see on TV is nothing like what we do. There's no evidence button, one push evidence button, although I think
Wish there
Lee
was.
Whitfield or somebody created one, just to stick on your keyboard, not an
Yes.
actual, doesn't
Hmm.
do anything. Um, I mean, you can do in-house corporate stuff. So basically, if an employee is stealing data from the company and they want to run an internal investigation, you can do that forensics. You can do internal watching the network and look for threats that are coming in, people trying to attack your systems. So you can do that kind of forensics. A lot of what I end up doing is company hires us and we call them bad leavers, but it's intellectual property theft. So it's somebody who leaves the company and then goes to work for a competitor. Company they left says, what did they take of ours? Did they take our client list? Did they take our secret sauce, whatever? And so we go in and collect all their devices and do the investigation on that to figure out what the person took.
Hmm. Hmm. So
Um,
So
yeah,
just real quick before I lose my train of thought, because that's super easy, is that, I mean, what's the difference that you would say, same from the criminal side of it, say an investigation, to the corporate side of it, right? Someone leaves, they steal stuff. Is it a different investigation that you'd have on, say, the criminal side? Because honestly, if they're taking their material, hey, they could, if it's IP, that's worth something. There is, but think about it on the civil side. Is the investigation the same?
yeah, essentially. I mean, the process is all the same. So it's all the same artifacts that you're looking at. It's all were their USB drives connected? Are they using cloud storage like Dropbox or Box? Are they communicating with somebody else using kind of chat programs? Are they taking pictures of things with their phone that they shouldn't be? So, I mean, it's kind of similar. It's just one goes down the criminal path and takes a really long time, and another goes down the civil path and also takes a really long time. So,
Yeah, and that's exactly the answer I would expected, because if you look at investigations and the life cycle of an investigation of where you start and what you need to do. Granted, it's different, right? It might be different a bit, the type of case, but civil and criminal cases on the forensic side of it, to me, I mean, it's exactly that, is that you follow your process, your procedures. Obviously, it's not A, B, C, D, but you follow your procedures as you go through this, right? And so it's not necessarily now different crimes, but I think that the process is the same. So would you agree with that?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my favorite criminal cases that I actually worked on was an arson. It was an arson insurance fraud case. So the entire computer tower was, of course, in this house fire. Everything burnt around it except the hard drive. So we sent the hard drive out to a clean room. We had it taken care of. They were able to get all of the data off the hard drive, which was fantastic. So I started doing the investigation on that. And initially, we're just the insurance company hires us, and he's like, okay, so it's this guy's house burnt down from a dryer lint fire. He has also had a previous house that burned down, which is why we're under investigation, because that's strange to have your house burned down twice. So we went ahead and took a look at the internet history of this, and we see searches for how to start a dryer lint fire, how to clear your browser history,
So love forensic stuff, man. It's awesome.
right? The how to clear your browser history was my favorite because if I'm seeing that, it didn't work.
Yeah, yeah. You missed step C.
Right? Actually do it. There was how to start a Christmas tree fire, which interestingly enough was how his first house burned down. There were searches for mortgage valuations. And then there were searches for building a brand new house. So we sent all of that to the insurance company, and they're like, oh, okay, I think we have some charges to file on this.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah. No, I mean, again, people are super smart,
mm-hmm.
but we always say that, but honestly, people are pretty well. They go and utilize it, and they're thinking, yeah, you know what? I know maybe someone can find this, but they never will, type of thing, right?
Yeah.
I'm never going to get kind of caught, type of thing. I'm using this certain, this certain software that's going to allow me. It's going to hide my tracks and do everything else. I mean, you run into those type of cases, right? But there's always things they have to do, whether it's going to be software is going to interact with it or not. But the operating system has everything to do. So you kind of brought me into that. So if someone brings in software and they're like, "Hey, man, I'm going to erase my browser history and do all this other thing," what are some other things that people can look for? As part of the operating system, it's really not. I don't want to say software because that is, but what are some other things that people might look for if someone's like, "Yeah, dude, I just reset everything."
Yeah. A lot of times there's event logs. It will track if there's things that have been deleted or moved. You've reset the operating system, that'll be tracked. Registry files is an excellent place to look because even if it's something like somebody installs Ccleaner on the system, and then if they run it by default, there's not much of a footprint. I shouldn't be saying this because I'm giving people ideas, but
No,
there's
only good people watch my show. Only
okay,
good people.
perfect. So Ccleaner by default, there's not a ton. I mean, there's definitely stuff on the system, but there's less of a footprint in the registry. But as soon as you start changing things in the registry, it adds a whole bunch of additional keys. So people think that they're being extra creative by, oh, I'm going to change this setting because I don't want somebody to know that I decided to clear browser history, whatever. And you're just stomping all over it and giving me extra data, which is just fantastic.
So obviously, one of the things, data doesn't just go poof, right? Data doesn't just go all of a sudden, it's gone.
Yep.
It has to go somewhere. It has to be, utilized. Things have to run, especially if it's going to run in RAM. So, especially when we start looking at and moving towards, and I'm just going everywhere, when you start talking about memory forensics, I mean, how important can that be if someone who you're just like, boom, got it. And, back in the day, they're like, hey, make sure you walk in there and you pull the plug right from the wall. Make that thing dead so that nothing else happens, right? So now think of, now in today, especially in those types of those cases, how important is it for people to understand that there's still shit you need to look for that might be sitting in, in memory that, so volatile? I mean, how can that help an investigation?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's some of the artifacts are only existent in memory. And so if you shut down the system, that memory is gone. You've lost that data. It never had an opportunity to write back to the disk, and poof, now it's gone. The other issue that we often run into is if you pull the plug right away and shut down the system, okay, what if that system was encrypted and now you don't have access to the key? There you go. Now you have a very expensive paper.
True story. Had to let someone go this week, and no, it was last week. And yeah, hey, we have all the passwords and everything else like that, but BitLocker with that text file, yeah, we already killed the Microsoft account. Yeah, okay, you learn. But yeah, there you go. So I mean, that's super important, right? And that a lot of people, I don't want to say old people, because old people, and that's exactly how, when I was going through all of this stuff, is like, man, we got to get that thing. Got to make sure can't touch anything else that you have there. And so, have you seen things evolve for the better, as in, understanding your people, and with the training side of it, or actually operators who, aren't just going, well, this book says we need to do this, so I'm going to go in and make sure I follow through these, because I'm leading you on to a question, but is there training out there by operators, say Sands and all these others, that are just like, hey, this is how you do it, and this is why you do it, rather than this is the book and this is how it tells you how to do it?
Yeah, absolutely. SANS was a good option. There's Volatility has memory forensics training, which is excellent. I haven't personally taken it, but we've had a ton of other people in the company who've taken it and high regard.
They find a kick-ass tool, right, for memory.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of resources out there. There's even, people just starting out trying to learn some of this, like they can go to aboutdfir.com, which has a huge repository of places to look for education, videos. There's CTFs out there. So, there's something out there for everybody.
Yeah, and so remember, when we start using these acronyms, we have to tell people what they mean, right? Capture the flag type of stuff, right? But yeah, about DFI. We've had these people and we had them on the show. And so, what are some other places that you go to, or that when you're training your little people, Santiago little person, when you're training? Where do you send a person like him to go in and learn how to do stuff?
I don't know that I would have a resource for Santiago to go to. I learned from Santiago.
Oh, okay. Darn. All right.
I know.
So if it wasn't him, if somebody else or someone new coming into the team, what are some resources that, because honestly, we all say we might work, Monday through Friday type of thing, but our mind might be going, we might be thinking about other things. We would do these, and there's some things, because it's not necessarily doing forensics or doing the stuff that you do is constantly, you have to keep learning, right? Things change so quickly. There's new stuff out there. So where would you send someone? What are some places you go or tell people go that they might be able to continue on? In their learning process, because you never should stop learning. And like I said, things change so quickly.
Right. A lot of places I personally go would be Twitter is a big resource. Everybody is pretty much on Twitter at this point. There's a lot of stuff that's not forensics, DFIR related, but it's a good place to go. There are This Week in Forensics. Phil will send out a huge newsletter of different blogs and things that he has read or seen, stuff that people send him.
He lives in the future, so we always get a little bit later.
He does, exactly.
So what else?
I don't know. I do a lot of, I go to vendor sites as well. I do the Magnet, Oxygen. I will do Celebrate. I just go out there and look for whatever thing I'm researching. I try and start at Google, do a search for whatever that thing is, and then just start running through the list.
Yeah, and so with you have been you've been very successful at what you do. So what is something that sticks? And it doesn't have to be, say, in your new role. It doesn't have to be something that you did, a case that you worked, something that really stuck. And it doesn't even have to be on the forensic side of it, right? It could have been a dead body that you did on a crime scene. But what's something that you think, you just remember and it kind of just motivated you?
I did some pro bono work, which I loved, and it was trying to think of the term for it. Totally blanking. It was a girl who was basically stalked by her ex-boyfriend, and he posted photos of her on sites, like defamation photos and videos and things of her. So we got those devices and did all of the internet tracing and just gathered as much information about it as we could to do the case against, get the charges and everything brought up against him, and won the case. I mean, she won the case, and so that was probably one of the, I guess, most fulfilling cases, because you realized at that point that it had a very personal impact for her. And with it being pro bono, I mean, I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Right, right. And so again, kind of the DFIR for good, right? So
Yep.
I think that's extremely important. And so I'm going to go kind of sideways just a little bit because, so I have three daughters, they're all old, because yes, I'm old. But they're all in their 20s, and, they grew up in kind of obviously the social media, everything else that's out there. We deal with social media, right, in our investigations, and we see some pretty, some things that are like going, seriously? People actually do this, and I mean, what can you give to people, as a human being that, to help them and explain to them really the dangers of it? Because, back in the day, stalking people was, sitting outside their window, or driving around following them and, showing up to, their place of work. And now you're stalked 24 hours a day by people that are being online. So, again, I'm getting personal, kind of my personal feelings with some of the social media stuff, but, any advice that you might have to, that you can give to maybe to people of, how to be safe?
Don't put everything online. Don't put your whereabouts out there. I mean, if you're going to post that you're going on vacation, everybody does that. Everybody posts that they're going on vacation and where they're going and when
Yes.
they're leaving.
My keys
so
are
now,
here for my house.
Yes. Yes, exactly. I'm taking my dogs to boarding so they won't be in the house when you try and come in and break in and steal all of my stuff. Like, don't post that stuff. Or if you're going to, wait until at home. And so, I mean,
So
little things.
So, I mean, have people become so desensitized to personal space and, type of, to me, again, it's bizarre to me, and some of the things that kind of go on, and, what's the new term, as you're going through the social media, doom scrolling type of thing and all this other stuff. Now it's in Webster's probably here pretty soon. But, so you have all of these other things, which now leads me to kind of the mental side of doing forensics and that type, because we see all of this from people. We see these things that we're doing investigations and we're like, she's, humanity, the type of stuff of it, right? So what kind of advice can you give to people kind of on the, the mental side of it? How do you balance that as an investigator, versus the society?
Get
I didn't
therapy.
mean for it to get this deep, but
We're going psychology again. We're going full circle.
I know. Yes, exactly.
Go to therapy, get counseling. Like, it's not a bad thing. Everybody needs it. You should talk to somebody all the time. Mental health is huge for me. I very much struggle with anxiety and depression at times, and I'm not alone in that. That's common across the field.
Here with you. Let me tell you,
Yep.
it's the same thing. And that's refreshing that you say that, as in, there's a stigma wrapped around it, right? There's a stigma wrapped around that, oh my gosh, if I go in and actually talk to someone, that becomes an issue, but it really isn't at all, especially in again, going back to my law enforcement days and all of the child pornography cases that you work and all these things and the things that you see, is that where does it go, right? It sticks around, and it's no different than going and looking at, someone doing this stuff, that you're doing an investigation on. It's
Mhm.
you want to tell everyone, but you can't tell everyone, right?
Right.
There's
Right.
these things that you really can't. And so again, I think that advice that you give is extremely important for people. There's no stigma wrapped around it. I mean,
Right.
mental health is you're gonna carry that around and then kind of push it around with everybody else. So that's probably the best advice you can give to someone, and to not be shameful. Don't
Yeah.
worry about it. That's yeah. And if you do, it's just, and that's some of the things, again, that, a lot of in law enforcement, when you have, or you have, it doesn't even have to do with law enforcement, but you might have a small, office that the only person that does forensics, or, you have a small law enforcement office that only person that does forensics, and they have to do it for 30 years, right?
Right.
Because they're the only ones that do it. And they don't get a break and they don't get rotated out, So again, that becomes kind of a, obviously kind of an issue for everybody else. So yeah, I mean, hopefully people that are listening and watching to that, please then understand that it's not just, hey, digital forensics. It's really anywhere in life
Yep.
of trying to. There's people definitely out there that can help. And
Yep.
there's been had that same conversation with a few other guests, especially on that side of it. So we need to start some sort of, I don't know, just
There's an
now
org
now.
there's an
Yes.
organization out there now. We have,
Really?
so yeah, mental health hackers.
Oh,
It's
really? Oh,
yeah,
cool.
it was
That's great.
started by Amanda Berlin.
Uh-huh.
So she is InfoSister, SYSTIR on Twitter.
Shout outs
Um,
going out.
yeah, she started that a few years ago, and it's kind of taken off. So
Oh, that's great.
there's definitely a push out there about
Oh, that's
mental
great.
health.
I love it. I love it. So let's get more. Let's get talk a little bit more about. So I always kind of ask. Um, we talked about your case, but I mean, what's an artifact? What's something kind of your go-to? I always talk about kind of go-to artifacts. What is something that you're like, hey, I'm going to dive in because I know I'm going to find some great stuff in this little nugget, no matter what kind of case that you're working. I mean, what's something that you can give to someone? Hey, make sure that you're looking here, or looking at some application, looking at some registry, whatever. What's your favorite go-to?
Um, I think it's still probably like shell bags. It's something that it's there. You can always see some kind of navigation if they're browsing through folders, what they're doing with it. If they're copying things to an external drive that you may not have other evidence for whatever reason that the drive was plugged in, or they had a network share mapped and unmapped it, and for whatever reason they've cleared logs that's not there, you may only find it in shell bags. It's not
Mm,
something that necessarily gets erased. So that's
yeah,
that's a good
yeah,
spot.
yeah. So tell people. I mean, just in what's the layman's terms? If you're going to go and have to describe this to someone who's never done it, what is a shell bag? Obviously, you kind of gave it in your examples, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what is it that and how's it left?
So essentially, it's the size, the Windows is recording the size of the window that's left on your screen. So if you open up a folder and you resize that window, it captures that window size, but it also captures if there's other folders or files that are listed within that folder that you have open. So as you start drilling down into the folders, Windows is capturing that window size and also a list of all of the folders that are displayed.
Isn't that kick ass? I refer to that as the forensic DVR, because
Yes.
that's exactly what it's doing, right? You have this little TV screen and everything's being recorded on it. It's,
Mhm.
it, people kind of dig it, and if they don't, they don't. But I mean, there's some really cool stuff that people don't understand. Everything is recorded on that. They try not to, and it's not, but they don't think anyway. We can go on and talk about that. So tell me, because I always ask this, is that um, as part of your investigations that you're going and you're doing right now, is what would you say the percentage involves, say, the desktop, desktop laptop versus a mobile device?
Most of what I do is mobile.
Hmm. Hmm. And
Um,
why is that?
everybody's
Because
carrying them.
everyone has a phone, or
Everyone
two
has
of them.
everyone has a phone in their pocket.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
Why would you not?
Right. So when you started out on kind of the corporate side of it, and this is just a question. I don't know the answer on that. Did you see more? It's a fascination for me. Did you see more focus being on computer evidence? They're like, yeah, don't worry about it. We got all this stuff backed up. We got this, all the email. Don't worry about it. Mobile devices, yep, nope, don't worry about it. We got it all. I mean, was that kind of the mentality that when you started?
Yeah, we very rarely ever ran into phones. Or
Yeah.
I wouldn't say we rarely ran into phones. Like people still had phones, but they weren't like everybody has a phone right now. There were still some people who didn't have phones,
Mm-hmm.
which is crazy to think about at this point.
Yeah, yeah. Who's that person? Don't
Right.
know. Who is that? So my question is more of when everybody has a phone, was there a time when people just they're like, don't worry about that because we have everything we need that might be on their desktop or on the network.
Yep, we still had times, especially in the corporate environment, where
Mm-hmm.
they said, "No, we're not going after the phone. We can
Yeah.
pull the email through our Exchange, or we can pull like all of our documents." They save all of their documents to a network share. They never save it to their personal computer, which we know is always wrong. There's always something saved on the computer,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
No one
with
ever uses like a
phones.
third party app to maybe do something bad. I don't know.
Right. Well, even so, we have OneDrive for our documents that'll save all of our documents. It's documents, pictures, music.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably another folder that I'm desktop. That'll save all that stuff up to OneDrive, but we're not allowed to save our case data to OneDrive. So my downloads folder, which does not get synced with OneDrive, is now my documents folder.
Perfect.
So I have everything saved in my downloads folder, which is a ridiculous location. But that's something where if somebody came in and said, we want to grab all your data, oh, don't worry about it. We'll just grab OneDrive.
Right.
Cool. You're not getting most of my data.
Yeah, yeah. No, it is crazy. And I kind of knew a little bit of the answer because I'll go and talk to legal firms and you have a conversation with them. They're like, yeah, don't worry about it. We got everything on the network, all the emails, everything that we need. Dude, who uses email anymore? Really?
Right.
You're forced to use email because you have to, but who uses that? And
Yep.
so, but still, it's still there. I mean, it is still to this day that is here dealing with it. So, okay, so give me your favorite mobile device story. Don't use
Oh,
names.
man, I'm not using names. Um, I
There's too
don't know
many of
that
them.
I don't know that I can share any of them.
Oh, I like that a lot. Now I'm intrigued.
That's the problem.
Really?
That's the problem with
Damn.
working for a company like I do,
Yes.
that
Yes.
if I happen to mention
I know.
any part of
Yes.
it, everybody
I get it.
immediately knows what I'm talking about.
Dang. Let's see. How can we get around that?
I will say my favorite chat application that I've run
Yes.
into is WhatsApp.
Yes. Yes. But see, now everyone's moving out of that. They've canceled it. Now everyone's doing
Yeah,
Signal, right?
yeah,
Or Telegram or until they change their mind and do something else, right?
right,
But
right.
yeah, WhatsApp. So tons of great information, artifacts that are stored, obviously. People
Mhm.
say some awesome things. Let me ask you this: have you ever, as part of your investigations, found something in a non-chat, as in it's not supposed to there's a chat function in it, but you found some artifacts in it, like a game or something else?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen like Words with Friends.
Yeah, that's my
It's,
favorite one
I have seen some pretty interesting chats
because
take
only
place.
old people use Words with Friends, and
They
so you
do
get some
now.
old people chat that's going through it, right? Yes, I
I
know.
love Words
Yeah,
with Friends.
I know exactly. But see, here's the thing: is that that's a huge point. Is that a lot of investigators or anything else is like, yeah, just give me this. give me all this chat. Just give me this, yeah, WhatsApp, Telegram, Viber, whatever. Just give me these chats because that's all that matters. That's the only chat application you use. You know what? No, if I'm a bad dude, I am using out of games. I'm using stuff like that. That's where you're gonna find it because they're like, yeah, I just saw on the news that WhatsApp, man, the police are looking at that all the time. So,
Yeah.
you know what? Of course, they're going to go and migrate to some other types of things. You know,
Yep.
log into the Gmail account, leave it in the drafts folder.
Yeah.
All those
See
crazy,
that?
crazy things, right? So I'm
Yeah.
giving away all of the secrets that people can do. Okay, so again, I don't like to keep people too long, but I need to find out about Teletubbies.
Oh my God, Santiago. He's the one that made you ask that question.
I don't know. Some anonymous source
That
said something about that.
that is 100% Santiago. So I had a Teletubby costume. I actually had two Teletubby costumes. I had a purple one and I had the red one. So Tinky Winky and
Yes.
Poe. I do know their names. I had
This
both
is getting so
costumes.
good.
He would have a video called lunch, or even just randomly throughout the day, he would video call me, and I would throw on the Teletubby head and answer the video call.
You would?
Yes, throughout the workday, just as a Teletubby.
That's probably the best thing ever.
Yeah,
So, do you have it
I
still?
don't. I don't.
Dang, I was hoping you were going to
Sorry.
throw that on. That's
No,
okay. That's
I
all
don't.
right. I get it. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to say who said that.
I know who it
But
was.
yeah, I had to definitely ask and find out exactly about that. So with that, who got you started? I mean, who got you started on the side of it, on the forensic side of it? I always like to give, as part of the community, and making sure that you're giving, some of the shout outs because I'll put this stuff on obviously social media, and I mean, who can you shout out the things that one either the information that you gained from them, the people that need to be followed, those people that are just getting into it, how give people some because you have mentioned Twitter obviously utilizing that as some of the feeds and trying to get it. So where can people go? Who can people follow?
Um, there's so many people. Heather Mahalik, Sarah Edwards. Those are probably a couple of the top two that I follow a lot, just because I get into Mac forensics and mobile forensics. Um, I don't know. I mean, everybody else who's been on your show are great
Every
resources.
everyone who's been on my show. So I'm gonna have to put them all on. I'll just put everyone, and now
Uh-huh.
just watch all of these others type of
Yes,
stuff. Okay,
exactly.
so last question: what do you see the future kind of bringing? Obviously, we're not going to talk about the COVID stuff or anything else, but I mean, what do you see on the forensic side of it? That it's one of these things that you're like, shit, I think this is going to happen. These are some of the things, either investigative side of it or artifact side of it, or things that people need to be looking out for.
I think it's going to be more difficult to grab data from places. More people putting encryption on, Apple changing the whole setup of their computers, the M1 laptops, which is an absolute nightmare to try and get data off of now. Fantastic from a user perspective, but an absolute nightmare for forensics.
Mm.
So I think it's probably going to go more in that range of everybody using encryption. There's encrypted chats. We just have to come up with new ways to try and grab data and do that remotely, because I think that's going to come into play as well with more people trying to now work from home. Even after COVID, I think there's going to be a lot of places that are just switching to the work from
Yeah,
home remote
saving money.
environment. Yeah,
Yeah,
why
yeah, for
not?
sure.
They
Yeah.
they find out that it's working and their business is still excelling, so or accelerating. So I mean, I think we have to come up with ways to do more remotely and grab that data.
Yeah, I think you're right on the endpoint type of stuff. Obviously, mobile devices are a little bit more difficult.
Hmm.
But actually, endpoint trying to get that and doing remote and remote collections. I do think that that's an issue. But I said one last question. But see, you keep giving me good stuff to ask. So, what do you think about cloud stuff? Because, obviously we have devices that are encrypted, we have mobile devices that are encrypted, but honestly, everything has some sort of server set. Because people would be super pissed that they have to actually go in and they lost all their data, when they uninstalled Snapchat and did all of these, WhatsApp. So, I mean, what are some of the, I guess, the the guidance that you might give, or how important is for people to understand these other, these other servers, these cloud services that might be used for forensics?
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of stuff out there. AWS, there's when it goes down, it's bad. I mean, it took down over half the internet. So I mean, everybody stores things in the cloud, which is great. Um, I think it's a lot. People will forget to pull data from the cloud or think that the old style of we need to grab everybody's physical devices and they forget to go, oh, wait, I need to grab the iCloud stuff, or I need to grab their Google backups or AWS or Dropbox or whatever else is out there. If more people are pushing data Office 365, if more people are like pushing data to the cloud to store it, I mean, I think they definitely need to go that route and to pull that data. Remember to pull that data.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of people, I don't know. It's kind of the same thing. And again, this is my opinion. It's the same thing of, hey, everything's going to be on, our corporate network. We don't look at mobile devices. Kind of the same thing of people like, hey, it's on their mobile device or on a corporate network. And so screw it, we don't need to have anything else. Well, you use workplaces, right? You know that you have all of this stuff that you store there that they actually, So it's exactly that. And I think it comes down to education. Again, my own opinion. Education of the type of information that's still available, especially if you're working in a corporate environment, right? Your Google Drives, your OneDrives, all of this stuff that might be, but obviously don't neglect, as you said, your download folder because that's still there, right?
Right?
But still utilizing that, obviously a cloud service as a piece of evidence. I think that's pretty cool. So awesome. Wow. So thank you. I do
Yeah,
appreciate it.
this was fun.
Oh, hey, when you just sit and drink beer and BS the whole time, it's
Right.
enjoyable. I will have you back again, though. I will.
Yeah,
You just
I
have to
won't
make sure
ghost you.
you respond to my requests.
I'll have to turn on Twitter DM
Yes.
notifications. I
Yes.
get so many
I know.
notifications that I don't want to read, so I
Right.
turn those off,
I
but
get it.
I will turn them back on for you.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Awesome. Good. Okay, I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah.
So I'm telling you what, I feel sorry for Stacey because I actually could have went another hour or so just because asking some questions. That was actually, hey, what a great way to start the second season of the Forensic Happy Hour. So much stuff rattling around in that Teletubby head. And we have that going on. And I'm not going to call out who gave that to me, Santiago, but fantastic material. I do appreciate that, although I'm a little torn because the head wasn't available. But next time, hopefully, we'll do that. So next week, again, we will be rocking and rolling on the Forensic Happy Hour. Everyone enjoy your long weekend, and I will see you again next Friday. Have a great weekend.